Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to check out New Planet. This is a game that I got from the developer. It's available on the Game Crafter for $40 should you want to pick it up for yourself. Now, I'm looking on the box for player information, like is it for 2 to 4 players? What's the minimum age that it should... I don't see any of that. Normally I would show you, okay, this is for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, and the average play time is 50 minutes or an hour, whatever. I don't see that anywhere. That's something that needs to be added to the box. Now, before we get going, I have to disclose that I was paid to cover this game. FTC regulations require me to disclose that, though all opinions are my own. And as far as what New Planet is all about, well, basically, if you've ever played the card game Milbourne, it was a French go a certain amount of distance by playing cards in order to win kind of game. You would put mile cards down, like 50 or 100 or whatever, and you'd be trying to mess up your opponent's vehicle by throwing a flat tire onto them or messing up their automobile for repairs, and then there were cards to fix these things and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, New Planet has you doing that, but instead you're a city, you're like a civilization, and you're trying to gain a certain number of resources across 4 different categories. The ultimate goal of the game, and this is a look at the rulebook, it's pretty small, nothing to worry about, but there's the goal is the first player to reach 600 population, 500 health, 500 agriculture, and 500 water. Again, it's small print. I have poor eyesight, so it's difficult for me to read. There is a PDF, I believe, available on the Game Crafter site. You can blow that up, and everything will be easier to read that way. As far as the components are concerned, the game comes with a lot of cards and these tokens. Alright, now I'm going to be old man time here for a minute and complain. These are laser cut components. Way back in the day, I covered games for a company called Victory Point Games, and all of their components, or at least most of their components, were laser cut. That left soot on your hands as you were punching them out. In fact, the Game Crafter even added a note in here saying, this game contains laser cut components, laser cut items will have a slight amount of soot on and around the edges, which can quickly be wiped off. They will also have a campfire-like smell for about a week after being taken out of the bag. I personally hate laser cut components for that reason. Just the act of me trying to punch these out, like just doing this, and you can already see I've got soot all over my, and there's all of these to get through. So for the purposes of this video and for sanitary reasons, I'm just not going to punch these out. If I were to play a full game in the future, what I would do is I would get a piece of paper and keep track of my resources that way. Just write down, okay, I earned 50 of this population, 50, done. Or I can make my own score pad on Excel, something like that, where it's easy to track. And it would save the developer money. I'm just saying, if these things cost a lot to include with the game, I would honestly rather have an Excel spreadsheet, print it out, and I can do a scorecard that way. To me, that would be more desirable than dealing with soot. But then again, I have OCD. I have issues with that kind of thing, so it may not bother you guys at all. Victory Point Games eventually included a cloth wipe along with their games so that you could easily, it was like a moist toilet kind of thing. You would just wipe the edges of the pieces as you unpunch them. This game did not include that, and I would highly recommend that the developer include that. I know the Game Crafter can be a bit pricey to publish games through because you're not buying them in bulk. You're buying them, you're producing them like a few at a time instead of in bulk. But anyway, getting back to this. So laser cut components, these are the different punch outs. Like there's population and so on, and health and all that. And your goal is to get a certain number of these, like I was saying, in order to win the game. The large ones, I believe, are worth 100, and the small tokens are worth 50. So if you want to take a look at these smaller tokens, they're in this bag here. Yeah, so this is a look at the smaller tokens. There you go. So what you're going to do in this game, you're going to shuffle the deck of cards. Each player is going to get a hand of 5 cards. this in the middle is just a sampling of the cards that are in this deck. There are 3 types of cards. You've got resource cards in green, you've got disaster cards in red, and you've got shield cards in purple. The green cards, for the most part, allow you to gain resources. Sometimes it's free, other times you have to sort of pay resources to get other resources. For example, let's take a look at these 3. Alright, if I can get them off the table, that would be awesome. There we go. So the granary, for example, resources. You developed ways of storing food to help harsh times, plus 100 agriculture. You would find the appropriate token, give yourself that, and off you go. H2O, your scientists learn to use water more efficiently, plus 100 water. Simple enough. Cities, a bit more complicated, not really. You're going to gain 200 population, plus 50 agriculture, plus 100 water, minus 100 health. So you lose health but gain those other resources, okay? And you cannot play this kind of card unless you can pay the cost of it on that card. So that's an example of the resource cards. Now you've got these disaster cards. Some say play immediately. Whenever you draw from the deck at the beginning of your turn, if it says play immediately, you have to observe its effects. Otherwise, these just stay in your hand until you're ready to play them on someone else. This is a play immediately kind of card. This says disaster, play immediately, pass to another player. A giant asteroid has impacted near one of your cities, causing a global catastrophe. Player receives the card, minus 300 population, minus 150 agriculture. All other players, minus 150 population, minus 50 agriculture. So these are like pretty devastating cards. This other one, this nuclear disaster, just passed to another player. That player loses 200 population, 150 health, and 100 water. Okay, so those are bad. Purple cards, these are shield cards. They're good. They help you out. Hold until needed. These are like interrupts that you can play to stop yourself from being nuked or whatever the case may be. Reduces resource damage by 100 for each resource. And there's other types of shield. Like this is a better shield. I think I saw like ultra shield somewhere in the deck. So as I was saying, each player gets a hand of 5 cards to start the game. For the very first turn, they're going to play a resource card only, and that's it. They're not going to draw from the deck. They're just going to play a resource card. So let's say I played Sea of Life. I gained 200 population, or 200 agriculture, 100 population, and 100 health. Play that, goes into a discard pile. I get the appropriate tokens, add them to my pool, off I go. This player does the same thing, looks at their cards, plays a resource card, recycle water, 200 water plus 50 health. There we go. So they got their tokens, they're good. Second round and every future round after that, players draw from the deck, add to their hand. We won't use that as an example. That's that play immediately one. Okay, this is the nuclear disaster one. I think I showed you that already. And now I can choose to play one from my hand. I can play a Locust and mess him up. I could play another resource card. I could play Clinic, for example. Plus 150 health and 100 population. And we're going to keep doing this back and forth, until one player reaches the goal. Again, 600 population, 500 health, 500 agriculture, and 500 water. And at that point, that person is the winner. So while I didn't cover every single rule found in the rulebook, that should give you a taste as to what you're in for, should you decide to pick this up. As far as a review is concerned, I've already touched on some points. There's no player information on the box. That's number one that needs addressed. Anyone looking at this, I don't think this will ever retail. I could be wrong. But even still, there should still be, like, if let's say I have this in my collection, and 3 months later, I'm looking for a game to play that is appropriate for kids, or appropriate for a certain age group, I can easily look at my boxes and say, okay, this game would be good, this game would be good, this game would be good. This one I can't tell because there's nothing on the box telling me who the game is appropriate for. I can make an educated guess. The other issue that I have is, again, these laser cut components. I hate them. I don't like the soot on my hands. If I'm going to spend money on a game, I should not have to contend with that. Especially if the game is $40. That's another thing that I have an issue with. I understand that the Game Crafter is a resource for new time developers to get their ideas out there. I applaud that. I want people to bring their ideas out. I want them to develop games that no one has ever seen before. However, there's also a level of market competitiveness that comes along with that. For $40, there are plenty of other games that I could buy with better art and have better quality. If you take a look at Splendor, for example, Splendor has really great art, great cards, thick chips, and you can get it for between $20 and $35 depending on where you go. In most cases, it's going to be around the $30 mark. That game is $10 to $15 cheaper than this and looks a heck of a lot better. So, in terms of being competitive with the market, this game definitely does not do that. And that's a problem. I don't see a lot of people picking this up unless they're looking to support the developer. My advice to the developer would be this. Crowdfund this game. You're going to need the money to make the components better, and you're going to need the money to get better art. Like, the art on these cards for $40, I'm sorry, but that's just not, this doesn't cut it for $40. This might be a $10 game. Like, this might be appropriate for a $10 game, but $40? That's a lot of money for this kind of quality. And on top of that, the colors are difficult. Like, the text on the cards are difficult to make out. If you're going to have black text, don't put it on a dark green background like this. I would make the colors contrast so that the text is easier to pick out and to read on these cards. Like, for example, on the box, you've got dark blue background but white text. Okay, so maybe something similar here. Make the background darker but make the text white. Or make the background lighter and keep the text black. It's up to you, however you want to work it. But I would rework the art so that A, it's readable, and B, more attractive. So I know I've done a lot of complaining, and I apologize for that. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to educate. But at the same time, I am a consumer first. And if I were to go to a store, look at this game, and compare it to something else, my wallet is going to choose every single time, barring a few exceptions. Okay, and the average consumer is going to be the same way. So my advice is, this is a good start. This is a good start, but $40 is too much to ask for something like this. And I did ask the developer if this was a final copy of the game. He said that he had plans to possibly rework the art. If that's the case, that makes this a prototype. Selling a prototype for $40 on the Game Crafter, like when I buy a game, if I can buy a game and it looks one way now, and then 6 months down the line I buy that same game for the same amount of money and it looks different, then what I had originally was a prototype. So right now the developer is charging people for a game that isn't finished yet. Okay? So my advice is lower the price of this on the Game Crafter. That may be difficult to do considering the production costs. Find a way to reduce the production costs. Make this cheaper, or crowdfund it. Have people put the money up front so that you can hire the people that you need to make better art, so that you can change the cards to make them more legible, so that you can get away from laser cut components and dirty up everyone's fingers. And just all around, I think the game needs a facelift. And to do that, crowdfunding would be the way to go. Yes, Game Crafter is great, but in my opinion, I think it's more suited for prototypes, for developers who want to send prototypes out to reviewers like me who can give feedback and critique the game. The Game Crafter, I'm sorry Game Crafter, should not be a final stop for your product. I think the Game Crafter, just because of the cost of making these on the Game Crafter, is higher than what it would be if you were to get it mass-produced at a factory somewhere overseas, something like that. So, do I recommend this game? Sorry, no, not at its current price point. Could it become something good in the future? Yes, it could. But right now, for $40, I'm sorry, but no. If you guys want to see the written preview that I've written up, I call it a preview because this is a prototype and I don't review prototypes. But if you guys want to see the written article that I put on my official website, it's at www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. This is Vince, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.